In this presentation, we're going to be looking at the new scalable vector graphics workflow inside of Maya 2016 Extension 1. We're going to use the SVG node to add in some graphical elements that I designed in Adobe Illustrator. SVG is going to come in as a vector file, and Maya is going to automatically generate some 3D geometry for us right here at the end of this animation. So let's go ahead and jump over to the Create menu and add that SVG node into our scene, and you'll see that we have a placeholder. We can add the SVG file onto that in two ways. We can use a standard file import to go to our disk and browse for our SGV files, or we can go ahead and use a copy-paste workflow, which gives me a nice non-destructive way of working with Illustrator. I can continue to refine my work in Illustrator and repaste the results back into Maya, and I won't lose any of the underlying work that I've done on that original SVG object. And that's exactly what we want to see in this example. So let's go ahead and grab all this vector information. We'll copy that into our clipboard with Control-C. We'll jump back into Maya, and we'll just go ahead and hit that paste command. So you can see Maya goes through, and it really quickly builds us this nice extruded piece of 3D geometry from that vector information. Also notice that Maya generated shaders for us based on the colors that were in that original Illustrator file. Now we want to further refine this, so we'll jump over to our perspective view, and you'll see that we have a curve resolution. This is going to define how many polygons are being used to try to capture that vector information. So it's resolution independent. We have individual controls for both the extrusion and the bevel. So for this example, we're going to go ahead and dial in this extrusion a little bit. So let's go and give it a slightly less extrusion depth. We'll give it some more edges to work with. We'll maybe increase that extrusion offset to a higher value, and we'll just start clicking through a few of these presets here. So another thing that's kind of interesting about this, and you can see it's got that nice little kind of bloating happening right there. You can also take the distances and the offset values in both the extrusion and the bevels and inverse them or put them to negative ranges, and you're going to get the opposite effect of what you've drawn in your little profile shape window. So it's a very powerful tool. Let's go ahead and just get this guy kind of back down. I don't need a fancy extrusion, but I do want to have a really nice bevel on this. And we can do both outer bevels and inner bevels. Now, obviously, if we did an outer bevel on this, it's going to puff everything up, and it would make all these little blocks kind of bleed together. So that really wouldn't work well for this example. So what we're going to do is we're going to do an inner bevel. So we'll turn that inner bevel on. We'll scroll down here. Notice that we have individual controls for both the front and the back bevel. So we'll turn this, kind of get down the side a little bit so you can see what this happens when we turn this front bevel on. So it kind of puffs that guy out. I'm going to drop that down to a value of something like 0.1. and maybe overdrive this to a value of 1.5 and get that nice little rounded edge on that guy. So now if we select it and move across the face here, you can see all that little specularity happening from that little round that we've just added on there. So the next thing that we want to do is we want to start animating this, and I want to actually do some animation that's going to be bending it and deforming it. So that's one of the things that we wanted to make sure the tool was able to handle, was deforming meshes. And we've got a really nice tessellator, and that's exactly what we need to do right now, is turn on this deformable mesh tessellation. So as soon as we turn that guy on, you can see Maya goes through and it starts to break this up into more faces so that we could start to really push and pull on it. And we have a lot of control on how these polygons are going to get added. So if we wanted to drop something like the max edge, I'm going to get more polygons sort of coming down these edges here. But it's not really going to add too many to the faces. It's not going to subdivide on the face of the type. It's just going to subdivide the edges, right? So let's go ahead and check that out. Put that to a value of 2. You can see that now the edges are obviously more subdivided, but we really didn't get any face divisions happening here. So if we take that refine threshold and put that down to a value of 0.5, well, now we've added more polygons into the faces of those fonts or of that vector file. So that's cool. I can go back to the defaults for what I'm going to do. I'm not going to be pushing on this too crazy, but I just wanted to kind of draw your attention to the fact that we do have that flexibility. So the next thing that I'm going to do really quickly is I just want to scale some of these objects down. I'm going to make some polygon tweaks to this guy, and I'm just going to go ahead and grab my shell for this guy. So we'll just say to shell, and we're going to scale all this stuff down here. So I want to scale that NCA down, and I want to scale that line down. Something like that looks pretty good. And now that I've done that, the next thing that we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and we're going to add onto this a deformer, and I'm going to use a nonlinear deformer. The nonlinear deformers are really, really good at doing kind of broadcast type effects. They're super fast to work with, and they have a very nice style to them. So we'll go ahead and we'll grab this nonlinear bend deformer. We'll give a little bit of curvature on that guy. Now obviously objects can pass through these nonlinears, and these nonlinears can be positioned and rotated. So what we're going to do is we'll hold down our J key to kind of spin that guy around, something like that. Oops, I got to get one more snap on that guy, and then we're going to spin it around so that it's kind of going down the length of that line. And I can use this nonlinear deformer to really, do some fun stuff with this. So if we wanted to maybe have the animation of the camera spinning around this guy, you can do something like that. Obviously, you can take the nonlinear and sort of tweak it out and do some really cool effects with it. Now, the idea that I had for this was I wanted it to still have this camera move kind of wipe in, but I just wanted to have a little bit of arc on that. And I actually wanted the arc to go the other way. So we're just going to invert that guy, sort of to arrange sort of something like that. So as this kind of comes in, that NCAA just kind of drops down nicely, and then it comes to a nice rest with that little bit of bend inside of it there. And I think that looks pretty sweet. So everything that we've done now, has been pretty good, but I see some problems with the Illustrator file. Like I want the NCAA not to be left justified here. I want it kind of over here on the right, and you'll see that these little dots, this kind of underscore, they're not really lined up or aligned properly. So we need to go back to that Illustrator file and make some changes. So let's go ahead and grab this stuff right here and we'll pull that guy over there so it's kind of justified to that way, and we'll grab this stuff and we'll sort of push it, sort of there. So now we've made changes to that files. Let's go ahead and grab all that information again, hit Control-C to copy that to our buffer, our copy buffer, and we'll jump over to our text here. And we can go ahead and just jump to the SVG node and hit paste. So as soon as we do that, what's going to happen is Maya's going to go through. It's going to move that object. It moved the NCAA over, and notice all that scaling work that we did, the nonlinear deformer work we did, all that work was preserved. So it's a very non-destructive workflow, and that is really what this is all about. So if we go back to our render camera here, let's just kind of scrub through this animation. So you've got your basketball players kind of coming off, and then they kind of, here we can even make this a little bit bigger here. Then they kind of come off screen, and that NCAA just sort of comes in there, rests and drops, and that's really what it's all about. So those are a couple of the things that you can do with the Scalable Vector Graphics workflow inside of Maya 2016 Extension 1. Thanks for taking the time to check it out.